The Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. My name is Joni Siegel, and I'm the host for this podcast. Today's episode is episode number 284. Please, just a reminder to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. That way, people who are looking for help or hope in the field of addiction will find us. Also, please check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you will be notified when we put up a new episode. I can tell you right now, we put up a new episode every week on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, pretty much like clockwork. We do have a special podcast that we put up back in June, and sometimes we do that, but mostly Thursdays at 6. You can be certain one of our podcasts will be going up. Today we have an interview with two ladies. One of them's name is Gina McDonald. Gina is a former addict herself and now dealing with her daughter Sam's addiction. And Jackqui Berlinn. Jackqui is dealing with her son Corey's addiction. The two women have formed an organization called Mothers Against Drug Deaths. And I am excited to talk to them. Obviously, being a mother myself, their subject matter is near and dear to my heart. So let's talk to Gina McDonald and Jackqui Berlinn. I want to thank you, ladies, so much for joining the podcast today. Jackqui just popped up there, so I'm going to introduce you. This is Jackqui Berlinn. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Gina McDonald, thank you as well for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us, Joni. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I really want to spread the words about what you two are doing and get you as much help as I possibly can. But to start off, Gina, tell us your background. I know you have your own history with drugs, and now you're dealing with a loved one who is having an issue. So give us your story, your life story in 1 minute or less. Just kidding.
Sure. 1 minute. Okay.
No, just kidding.
No, it's all right. I grew up in California, little small Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. I'm one of 5 kids. My father was a career military man, career Navy, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom for a while. My dad was a complete and total alcoholic. My mom never drank a day in her life. Wow. She, my dad was a functioning alcoholic, but he was drunk every day of my life. I never really thought that impacted me until later.
Did she know? Right? Did your mom know?
Oh, absolutely.
And she just dealt with it.
She's a wonderful, wonderful codependent person because 4 of her 5 children have addiction and substance issues, right? So we see the hereditary line there.
Wow.
So probably around, I would say 13 or 14, I started hanging out with my older siblings and I started drinking on weekends and seemed very normal. Everybody was doing it. So that became, a normal weekend adventure for me and my family. And later, I would say when I was about 21, when the bar scene started, that's when it started to become a real problem for me. And I was a binge drinker. Like there was no 1 drink for me or 2 drinks. It was all or nothing, right? I didn't drink for the taste. I didn't care what it was. I drank to get drunk. So fast forward, I have my daughter. I stay clean and I get married and married an alcoholic addict. And yes. And I had a daughter at 26 years old. She was, I didn't drink or use or anything while I was pregnant with her. After she was born, responsibility hit me and it was back on. So, I was off and running and drinking for quite some time.
Wow.
Got into recovery, found recovery through, people started telling me you have a problem. So I started just going to AA meetings. I didn't do any sort of treatment at that time. And then we're just going to fast forward through a lot of that because I was on and off and on and off. I got into another relationship and I had a son. So my daughter and my son are 11 years apart. And after I had my son, I had a surgery and I was prescribed pain medication. And that ignited every single bit of alcohol addict behavior in me. And I was off and running. So you couldn't smell the pills, right? So this was my answer. You could smell alcohol.
Yep.
But you couldn't smell the pills. And my husband now is in recovery. He's 23 years in recovery. So I thought I was fooling him, right? So I did the doctor shopping. I did all that. I ran out of every resource there, started buying them off the street. And this was 2010, 11. So this is prior to the big push of fentanyl, right?
Yep.
Luckily, the pills I was getting off the street were the pills they were supposed to be. And
yeah, because if it was later, you could be dead now.
Oh, absolutely, 1000% could be dead. And my to get off the pills, when I couldn't get the pills anymore, I switched to methamphetamine because I thought that was a better way to get off the pills. Okay. And within 6 months, Joni, I was kicked out of my house. I weighed 98 pounds.
Wow.
I was, my kids were taken away from me. I was served with a restraining order. My kids were taken away from me. I was homeless. I was pulling apart electrical boxes on the street. I was eating parts of my phone, SD cards out of my phone. Yes. It was really bad.
Wow.
So, the sheriff's department picked me up. Thank God. I praise them every day that the Alameda County Sheriff picked me up and drove me to a mental hospital and offered treatment or jail, and nudged me towards treatment. So I went in there, and from that day, that changed my life.
Wow. What year was that? When was that, Gina?
That was 2012.
Okay.
So 10 years. I have 10 years sobriety now.
Okay. And then what happened with Sam?
Sam was a pot smoker in high school, and she had seen what I was going through. Her father and I were no longer together. She spent a lot of time at her father's house. She had a lot more freedom at her father's house. She was smoking pot. She got into cocaine. As soon as I found out, we put her into treatment, right? We had insurance. We're very privileged. Put her into a treatment facility. She did really well for a while. Had a really bad breakup with her boyfriend. And all of a sudden, she's a heroin addict and a fentanyl addict and on the streets of San Francisco.
Wow. So she's a fentanyl addict.
Not purposely, right? She was in recovery now, so I'll get to that. But
right.
She was a heroin addict who inadvertently, because in San Francisco, everything in the Bay Area, in California really, everything has fentanyl in it.
Right.
So everything is laced with fentanyl.
Wow. And we will talk more about that. But you said that she is in treatment now.
Yes.
Okay.
We finally had to let go, right? There was nothing else we could do. We took her car, we took her phone, we offered every resource available, first of all, but she just kept going and kept going. And the more we gave her and the more we helped her, the more lies and the more it seemed to enable her, really.
Right.
So we cut her off, and when she had nothing, she finally reached out.
Wow. Right? I'm glad she's in treatment.
Yes.
Cool.
Almost 8 months sober.
Wow, that's very cool. Congratulations. Yes. Congratulations on your sobriety and on hers.
Thank you.
So, Jackqui, tell us about Corey. Tell us about your background and Corey when he was little and what happened with him.
Sure. My son, Corey, he's 30 years old now. And he is a fentanyl addict currently on the streets of San Francisco. He is the second oldest of 5 children. And he was always a really happy, easygoing kid. But when he started going through adolescence, he started having issues with anxiety and depression, as many adolescents do. He started smoking marijuana. He got caught with it at school, and he had to go through some programs, lots of counseling with us as a family, him by himself, he and I together. and he seemed to be doing great for quite a while. And then senior year in high school, he started smoking again. And we tried everything we could, to get him to stop, but he was really sneaky about it. And once he was 18, when we had younger children in the home and he was still bringing drugs into the house, we said, you're not abiding by the rules of the house. You have to go. So we set him up in an apartment. He had a job. He's always worked, and been a good employee. So we got him set up in the apartment, and he was paying the bills on his own. Then he got arrested. He was 18 years old, and he sold marijuana to a 17-year-old, and he got arrested for that. And he got convicted of it. So he went to jail for a little while. They didn't offer him a diversion program.
Oh, that's very helpful. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, not. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. That's a snide comment, but that's just not helpful for someone that age.
No, I think it was the person he sold to was the son of someone who had connections. So I think they were able to really get him prosecuted. Wow. More than they would have been able to. But anyway, so he had a girlfriend, and one day they were smoking and drinking, and someone offered them to smoke some heroin. And his girlfriend tried it. She liked it. She kept telling him, you got to try this. He kept saying, no, I'm not going to try it. And then he told me later that if he hadn't been smoking marijuana and drinking, he never would have tried it. But he ended up trying it, and he liked it. And that was the beginning of his horrible addiction to opiates.
And how old was he at that point?
He was 21 by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you two ladies connect up?
So we connected because I started Stop Fentanyl Deaths, and I got involved with activism, and I think Gina found me through that. What happened was my son, I was on social media, and there's a page called Facebook Rants and Raves, and I was scrolling through there, and I saw someone who was passed out on a BART train, and it was an addict, and people were saying horrible things about him. And I looked closer at the picture, and I realized that's my son.
Oh my God.
And I was really upset, about things that people were saying. And so I went and called my friend, and she said, just ignore it. Don't say anything. But it bothered me so much. So I went back in there. I went back on there, and I said, that's my son. As soon as I said that, it made a huge difference. People their tone changed, and they said, I'm so sorry. And they stopped criticizing him. Just saying that one thing humanized him.
Yep.
And it changed the whole way that they were talking about him.
And it also showed that you're a mom who knows that your son has a problem, and you're willing to talk about it, you know? And I think that's huge. You as well, Gina. You guys, I mean, I want to know more, but you guys are willing to get out there and talk about it. And so many families, they just want to close it off and keep it quiet and not let anybody know. And truthfully, that's not helpful to the addict any more than it's helpful to you guys and the family.
No,
not at all.
I'm going to do my best not to rant during this podcast, but I may get there. I'll be quiet now.
Absolutely.
But
in recovery, we say we're only as sick as our secrets, right? And I think that extends to the family as well. And until we talk about it more, we're not going to get the help and the resources that we need. And we want to make it okay to talk about. It is for a parent of someone struggling on the streets, especially when they're in and out, like my kid has been, like Jackie's son has been. You almost get PTSD. You really do.
I believe that.
And you're waiting. My daughter's clean right now, and I'm so happy, and I'm thrilled, and I'm supportive, but I'm waiting for something to happen.
I get it. I get it. You know, we've talked to parents whose kids have died from overdoses, and that I can't even imagine how tragic that is. But you guys are living with that possibility every single day. And I applaud you for not hiding in a closet and putting your head down. And I applaud you for not doing that and doing what you're doing. I really do.
Well, I feel like that was, you know, that interaction on social media with people really changed my perspective. And that's when I realized it was important to speak out. So I started doing more of that. News and reporters started reaching out to me. So I started speaking out about it. And then I met an author, Michael Schellenberger, who is writing a book called San Francisco about the open air drug markets in San Francisco. So my son and I, part of our story is in that book. And I spoke with Michael about it, and he says, have you ever thought of doing any kind of activism? And I said, no. And I said, but I sure would like to go, you know, protest those drug dealers in San Francisco. And he goes, let's do it. Let's do it. So I said, okay. I said, yes, I want to do that. I want to bring attention to this. It's not okay. Those open air drug markets in San Francisco are insane. And
I'm sorry for interrupting. As I mentioned to you, I think we're into our sixth year. We've been doing this for 5 years. And there was so much I didn't know about the drug problem. And I might have been one of those people on social media who would have made that comment prior to knowing that it was your son and you're a real person and you're not like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm, but I had no idea about open air drug markets. I'm now going to make this podcast non-clean. What the fuck? I'm sorry.
You have no idea, Joni. It is, I was out yesterday in the city. I lost count of the amount of drug dealers and sales going on right in front of me. It is literally like the gauntlet out there. It is unreal. And I don't think anybody understands until they've seen it, but it is unreal. And nothing is being done. Police are arresting people when they can. We're down. San Francisco is down 500 police officers, right? That's a major problem.
Is that because they're defunding them?
I think a lot of that the mayor defunded and then refunded. So, but now the Board of Supervisors is fighting that. So to me, it makes no difference. People are out there selling fentanyl on the street.
Unbelievable. Is it just in a certain part of the city, Gina, or is it everywhere?
So it is centralized in the Tenderloin,
okay,
which is a very low income, right, part of San Francisco. It is the part of San Francisco that has the most children, right? So children walk by that every day by hired guard. San Francisco hired community ambassadors to walk children to school, but won't arrest drug dealers. But it is spreading. I mean, it's spreading. Jackqui can talk to you about how it's spreading from San Francisco into the suburbs.
Wow. Jackqui?
Yeah, it's awful. My son and I are in frequent communication. I talk to him usually once a week or at least every 2 weeks. And he knows what I'm doing. He knows what I'm advocating for, and he completely supports it. But he says that he is seeing more and more high school aged kids coming in and buying from the drug dealers. And he sees them going back home on BART and taking it to the suburbs. And my son actually, he grew up in a small suburb. He lives in the city now because that's where the drugs are, and that's where it's easiest to get what he feels he needs to feed his illness, his addiction. But we're definitely seeing this, I want to call it a virus, spreading from San Francisco. It's real easy with BART. And we've been seeing high school students getting, pills that have fentanyl in them. And then, as Gina said, everything that's in San Francisco is spiked with a little bit of fentanyl. And it's so incredibly addictive that once they take, whether they try a little cocaine, or you can't even get heroin actually anymore. in the city because it's so much more expensive and fentanyl is more potent. So why would I asked my son if he would go back to heroin, which sounds crazy to me that I would ask my son, can you just go back to heroin? He says that he can't because he wouldn't be able to get it anymore.
Wow.
It's just not on the streets because it's not profitable. It's not profitable anymore. The fentanyl is the thing that's profitable. And that's why the dealers are putting it into everything, because it's incredibly addictive and much more profitable. It's really inexpensive, easy to manufacture. They only have to bring in much smaller amounts than when they were trying to traffic heroin.
Right.
So it's a great product if you're trying to make money.
Yes. Gina, how did you guys hook up and how did you start Mothers Against Drug Deaths?
So I had seen the social media post that Jackie's talking about on Facebook, and I saw her response and I thought, oh, God, I this is heartbreaking, right? My kid is doing the same thing. I didn't respond to her at that time, but then I saw her in the San Francisco Chronicle standing on the corner where my daughter buys drugs, where my daughter was smoking fentanyl in a tent. Kind of chokes me up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I saw her standing there with a sign that said, "Stop drug deaths. Why are we allowing these dealers to stand out here?" And I immediately Googled her, looked her up, emailed her, and got hooked up to the California Peace Coalition, which is a broader spectrum coalition of groups like ours that have come together to fight this. But ever since then, we have been pretty vocal. And then we changed our name. We changed our name to Mothers Against Drug Deaths because we thought it was more, first of all, power comes from mothers. Let me tell you that.
Yes, ma'am.
People listen to us when we have something to say. And these are our kids we're talking about. So we definitely wanted to put that in there. And we've had so many people email us, and the stories are just heartbreaking, right? I mean, heartbreaking.
Yeah. You don't mess with moms. I'm sorry. No. I'm going to do a little screen share here. You guys can keep talking about Mothers Against Drug Deaths, but I want to show what you guys did in San Francisco, which, hello, everybody watching. If you're not watching, if you're just listening to an audio podcast, you're not going to see this image. So go to YouTube and check it out. But the sign basically says it's in front of the tents, which obviously has people living in them. And it says, "Welcome to Camp Fentanyl, open to kids everywhere." Are you ashamed of your loved one's addiction? Are you worried that your loved one will overdose before they hit bottom? Do you walk on eggshells because of your loved one's addiction? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, the Addiction Intervention book is for you. Author Rob Lohman brings you 11 breakthrough strategies to help you or a loved one discover freedom from the chaos of addiction. Restore your hope for the future and break free from the hopelessness of addiction. Visit www.addictioninterventionbook.com to get your copy today. Also available on Amazon. You are listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information on the podcast, or to reach out if you have a story you would like to share with us, go to our Facebook page by the same name, or you can email us at theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com, or go to our website, theaddictionpodcast.com, or call us at 727-314-7080. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star review. Sometimes the hardest thing about getting someone into recovery is getting them to agree to treatment. Bobby Newman, a certified drug counselor with 30 years experience and an over 85% success rate as an interventionist, has created a series of 12 videos that you can use right now to learn every step to get your loved one to agree to treatment. Call 1-833-918-0008 today and say the word podcast to get a 10% discount. Or go to newmaninterventions.com and type in the word podcast for a 10% discount. This service comes with a free 1-hour consultation with Bobby.
Right. So that was from, we put that billboard up in Sacramento. That was our second billboard.
Okay.
We put that one up in Sacramento because we weren't getting attention from the mayor in San Francisco. So we thought we'd go to Gavin Newsom, right? So we put that billboard up on Highway 80. And then we also rented a mobile billboard to drive around the Capitol. And we gave a little press conference to talk about it.
Wow. I said this is Jackqui before we started. Y'all are kick-ass moms. This is good. You have to be kick-ass to deal with what you're dealing with. I'm appalled at what's going on in San Francisco.
Yep, listen, I have no shame, no fear. I don't get paid by the government. I am doing this on my own. I'm not a nonprofit right now. I don't get paid anything to do this. We need to call attention to this. People are dying every day.
Absolutely. Jackqui, you were going to say something.
I was going to say that after our billboards in Sacramento, Newsom mentioned fentanyl for the first time, just a couple days later, for the first time ever. So I know we were getting some attention. We did move with those billboards in Sacramento. Our first billboard was actually in San Francisco. We put it in Union Square, and it said San Francisco famous the world over for its
brains, beauty, and dirt cheap fentanyl.
Yeah. And we put it right in a tourist area because we were really frustrated with Mayor Breed. She called a state of emergency in San Francisco about the drug addiction and overdose problem in San Francisco. Okay. And she implemented a few things that didn't work well at all. Really didn't make any changes. And then she ended the state of emergency, and we were upset by that because we didn't see any real changes. And then she went to Europe to promote San Francisco as a tourist destination. And we were like, what? This is crazy. We didn't understand. It's like, it's not safe for the families that live there, let alone bringing people into this as, tourist destination. So that's when we decided we're going to put a billboard up in Union Square, one of the most popular tourist destinations in San Francisco, and, say, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Is your billboard still up?
The one in Union.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
The one in Union Square in San Francisco is not still up, but the one in San Francisco is. It's okay. Both directions on I-80.
Okay. Sacramento. The one in Sacramento is still up.
The one that I showed.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Wow.
So the declaration of the state of emergency in San Francisco came about was Christmas Eve. The Board of Supervisors last year, the Board of Supervisors had voted on the mayor's proposal. She opened up a place called the Tenderloin Linkage Center. And it was a place where people were supposed to be able to go to get respite and link to housing and food and showers and services and drug treatment and mental health treatment. 2 weeks in, or week or 2 weeks in, we found out that they were allowing drug use.
I was just going to say, I can see the handwriting on that wall.
So yeah, the inside of a government Department of Public Health funded building, they built out a fenced area in the middle of United Nations Plaza in a park, and literally allowed people to start shooting up, smoking heroin, smoking fentanyl, methamphetamines, and we couldn't believe it. We were like, how are you offering someone, hey, come in here, we can hook you up with substance use disorder treatment, some housing, and then you're walking by people using it. It's like having an AA meeting in a bar, right? We were so upset. So we decided we were going to protest in front of there. And 5 of us moms went out there and stood out there. They actually called for counter protesters to come out and
no, it's really okay with the drugs in here.
Oh no! Well, they didn't want to violate their patients' anonymity or right or whatever. So it was. I don't. It is. The common sense is gone. It's gone. It's all about this radical harm reduction, and you're allowed to hand out foil. You're allowed to hand out pipes. These are nonprofit agencies funded by the Department of Public Health.
Wow.
That hand out foil, pipes, clean needles, I'm okay with because of, the spread of HIV and hepatitis. Do I agree with it completely? But why do you need to hand out foil and lighters and
pipes? They hand out pipes too.
Wow.
Crack pipes.
Wow.
My son told me that San Francisco is like Pleasure Island in Pinocchio, where you go there and you think it's going to be great. They give you everything you think you want. You got the drugs on one side of the street and the paraphernalia to use the drugs on the other side of the street. And you get drawn into it, and it's really difficult to get out, and it starts turning you into somebody you never wanted to be. It's really heartbreaking. And my son, and I've even spoken with another addict who told me when they went into the linkage center to try to get services. So you walk into the linkage center to try and get a service. There might be some water. Sometimes there's food there. You put your name on a list to go inside and to see somebody to get these services. But to the right of you in the area where you're waiting are all these people using. And my son and this other person I spoke to said, that's very distracting when you're trying to come in and trying to make some changes or get some help. And they said, it's so easy to get distracted and you end up over there using with, someone that from the streets. You walk over to say hi, and the next thing you know, you're using, and then they call your name and you don't hear it or you ignore it because now you're partying. And they made, Gina can tell you, they made hardly any links in the month that it was open.
Wow.
And we told them, protesters, we said, this isn't going to work. Model will not work.
Right.
And we were proven right.
Wow. So what's next for you guys? What are you doing next? Anything that I can put in our email or I can talk about on the podcast, I want to do that. What do you have planned? What's coming up?
So on August 31st is it 21st?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's two. There's the 21st and the 31st, but we're doing the 21st. Yeah.
We're going to be doing a rally. There's so much changing in San Francisco right now, but we're going to be doing a rally for overdose awareness and fentanyl awareness. And we are hoping to see community members come out and call for more action and more programs that promote something other than enabling, okay? Because we have a lot of programs in San Francisco that enable, in my opinion, enable people. We need some more programs that offer hope.
Yeah, it sounds like San Francisco is doing a great job at enabling addicts.
Absolutely. There are very few programs that offer a way out, right? Very few.
Yep.
There's actually over 500 beds available in San Francisco. We were just with a group yesterday, and we were talking with them about it. And they said the greatest issue is getting people staffing. And we've seen that as a huge issue as well. They're spending the money in the wrong places. They're doing a horrible job with their resources. And they're spending so much money in San Francisco, but they're not putting it where it needs to be put.
And Joni, there's no oversight. There's zero oversight or accountability on where the money goes for these programs. Wow. There needs to be.
Yeah. And right now you guys are providing the oversight, but you don't have the power.
No, I'm doing the best I can. Yes. I'm doing the best
Yes, you absolutely are, both of you. You have a Facebook group, yes?
Jackqui.
Yes. Yeah.
And is it Mothers Against Drug Deaths? Is that what it's called?
We also have a website that's a great way to get in touch with us. It's mothersagainstdrugdeaths.org.
Right. I'm going to promote that. And I also want to promote your Facebook group and wherever else you are on social media, because, for example, I am a member. I know I don't think I'm a member now because I'm a grandma, but I know groups of just moms, and those groups need to know about your group because, if a mother listening or watching or whatever thinks, oh, well, that's never going to happen to my kid, you need to think again. And you need to help, I mean, this is unbelievable. I had no idea what you guys were confronting and facing in San Francisco. I mean, yeah.
One of the biggest things that I want to promote in our rally on August 21st is the fact that this is spreading from San Francisco out into the suburbs. And I really see that many parents do believe, not my kid. They do think that. And that's incredibly scary to me, because if their child is going, and it's a really popular place for teens to go on the weekends for fun, is into San Francisco. And the exposure that they're getting there to these open air drug scenes where people are normalizing drug sales and drug use is a very real risk. And to an impressionable teen that thinks, oh, that might not be so bad, and look how easy it is, and I can get a pipe and foil over here, so it mustn't be that horrible. That's a real risk to the kids in our communities. And at the rally, I really want to call for some major, I want to call on the leaders in each city, in Alameda and San Francisco County, to put out a warning to parents. Honestly, that's what I'd like to do. It needs more attention.
I agree with you. And what I would like, if it's realistic for you guys, is to send me a list of who it is that needs to get a letter about this issue. You said the board of supervisors. I'd like, if you have a link to say where people can go to find who these people are, and to start inundating them with letters and requests for, for fixing this, because, I don't know how many people in San Francisco listen to this podcast. We know that to date, we have over 500,000 downloads. That doesn't mean every time we put up an episode, we get that many, but the more we can put out the word, and like these mothers who live here, they can still write letters to your board of supervisors and say, this is not acceptable. Your current operating basis as regards drugs in your area, it's flat out not acceptable, and you need to do something about it. And if we can maybe shame them a bit, that would be okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I do want to say that I think some people in the city are finally starting to wake up. Part of the issue with the drug dealers for quite a while was that police officers would arrest some drug dealers, but Chesa Boudin, the district attorney, would not prosecute because he was seeing the drug dealers as victims. So the police officers would stop making arrests because they couldn't get any. It's just a lot of time of energy for no charges being pressed. But just last month, Chesa Boudin was recalled. So we were so excited about that.
Yeah.
So
good thing.
Hoping we're starting to see some change in the city.
Well, if we can utilize any communication line that we have especially in the public arena, to really start making this known, we absolutely will help you with that. Absolutely. So August 21st, we'll be talking about that rally. So send us all the details as soon as you have them, or you probably have them already. But anyway, send them to us, because every week we put out an email. Your podcast, I think, it may go up right after that. I'm not sure. If we can, we'll get it up before then so that we can really promote the rally and get people there. Okay, Steve says before. We'll do it before. We'll make sure this episode goes up before then so that we can call attention to what you guys are doing. I'm in awe of both of you. You are kick-ass mothers, and and you have to do that, and I get it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be here. We
have to be here. We have to do. If we see it, 2 people die of overdose in San Francisco every single day, and we have not seen that number go down with any of the measures that the Board of Supervisors or the mayors have put in place.
Wow.
So any day that could be my son.
Yep.
And I have to do this. I have to do this because I really believe that I know that people are dying, and I really believe that we can make a change if we keep pushing. We're not going to give up. Sometimes this work is incredibly exhausting, and then we just kind of bolster each other. We have other people in our group that are, come alongside us, and we've become friends. We love each other so much, and that's what's also helping us to continue with our work, because it's absolutely exhausting, and some days are harder than others. I mean, there's been a time when we were going to go do a protest, and I felt so sick that I almost pulled over and just said, Gina knew it, that I was like, I wasn't going to go because I was going to have to go pour my heart out again. And sometimes it's just emotionally and physically draining. And Gina's all, no, you're going to come be with me. And then when I got there, I felt so much better. But some days, you do feel like crawling into bed and pulling the blankets over your head. But because the work that we're doing is saving lives, and we're trying to save lives, that we just push ourselves and support each other, and we just keep doing it, and we won't give up. We won't stop.
Never.
I'm in awe of you both. Thank you so much for talking to us today. Thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you for everything that you're doing with Mothers Against Drug Deaths. Thank you. I hope that the interview today with Gina and Jackqui, who co-founded Mothers Against Drug Deaths, I hope that what they talked about that is happening in San Francisco has disgusted you as much as it has disgusted me. And I want to make a little bit of a comment. I think that most of the people who listen to this podcast listen because they know somebody who's addicted, or they've been addicted themselves. It doesn't matter. The point is that this is not something that just should be addressed by these handful of moms in San Francisco. This affects us all. I don't care where you live. If you're listening to this podcast, and if you listen to these women talk, you need to figure out a way to support their organization and put out the word that anybody that lives in that area needs to help these ladies. And also put out the word to your own area. Don't ever think of going down this road, because this is really, really bad. And it's unfortunate because San Francisco has always been just like a really wonderful, town, beautiful city on the hills and everything. Yeah, but this one part of San Francisco has these open air drug markets, and those drug sales are starting to filter out into the suburbs. And if you're visiting from out of town and you have young people that are going to go into this area, hey, they can just bring it back home. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again next week with another interview.
You have been listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information, reach out to us on Facebook or go to www.theaddictionpodcast.com. Our email is theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com.